Austin Aigbe is the Regional Advocacy Officer and ECOWAS Liaison Lead for West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. He joins us for more discussion on how to strengthen the electoral process. Thank you so much, Austin, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps a good place to start from is the assessment of, our electoral process, not just 2023. But if you look at the electoral acts of 2022, introducing, beavers, you have IREV portal and all of that. How well do you think we have come in terms of development and innovation around our electoral process? Let's start from there.
So maybe to quickly just address that a bit. The electoral act did not specify beavers.
Okay.
Neither did it specify the IREV. It's an INEC improved measure. INEC started those innovations far back in 2018 or before then, when it started to collate results off the circle.
Right.
What I mean is that at the time we were using the smart card reader, INEC had what they call the Z-pad. The Z-pad at that time was to snap result sheet at the ward level and then upload that result. Only INEC official at that time will see those information on their side. It was in public. Gradually, because of the abuse of Form 60E, and what's Form 60E? Form 60E is a kind of accountability board. After an election is held at the polling unit, the INEC presiding officer was expected to fill out the result, the same result on the Form EC8A, that is the result sheet, fill up the same thing on a board, on a postal-like sheet that is pasted at the polling unit. The idea was for people to go there and then see the result after the conclusion of the whole exercise. But soon we discovered that the moment those posters are pasted, folks who lose or won election go ahead to pull them down so that other people don't get to get that result. So INEC transmitted from 60E online. And that is what we now have the result viewing portal, so that you cannot pull it down. But again, we're surprised that it was pulled down in 2023 election. So the challenge, we are in a client society, you're supposed to have laws, not necessarily depicting every sentence in an act. That's where we need to go, and that's why I agree now that there must be a need, because at the time where the conversation was on about electronic introduction, there was a challenge with the JGA-led administration of the smart card reader, that the smart card reader was not written in the Electoral Act. Therefore, technicalities, those lawyers you saw sitting, pull out all of the technical issues and they pull it on board, and that was why even in 2015 election, technicality literally failed in most of the cases where you have to rely on the smart card reader, because it was an argument, a very strong argument. But today, in the Electoral Act 2022, the clause was such that INEC had the leverage to introduce any device. Again, you can then now say that the beavers is that. But INEC can choose another name tomorrow. They can decide to say we are using VAS, Voter Accreditation System. It is still an electronic means. You don't need to write it in the Constitution. That was the argument at that time. But now, because of what we have seen in 2023, that maybe we need to write every sentence including how results will be transmitted. Talking about moving the results straight from polling unit to the ward collation, maybe we have to write it. Before you move, snap. When you snap, upload. When you upload, make sure it's confirmed, so that you can follow the law. That's maybe where we are headed.
Isn't that what is obtainable now? Because at that word level, they snap it, and then of course to the local government, and then of course to the state and all of that. But we get to, I can't wait to hear your recommendations. But let's get to the core of the conversation, because INEC is recommending, particularly they mention that of course the National Assembly should introduce stricter, laws. So should the conversation be about the introduction of more electoral laws or the enforcement of the existing ones?
So both. Because right now there are sincerely loopholes. We thought when we got the 2022 Electoral Act, it was like, oh, we achieved it. We were so excited. Right. Because you recall that President Muhammadu Buhari denied signature 6 times. It was like the fineness of law that should just reduce all of the malfeasance in electoral processes. We thought we have got it to it was a means to an end, but we didn't know that we were just starting again, because For every law, there will always be some loopholes or lacuna. I mean, Electoral 2022 was not an exemption. But you see, an introduction of stricter laws, maybe particularly, I mean, I talked about
particularly to the issue of vote buying by politicians.
Yes, the vote buying. What is really vote buying? What is necessitating vote buying? It is the system you put in place. Vote buying will be, okay, before, we didn't call it vote buying. We just talked about vote trading, in a way that you can actually be giving money before you vote. In 2016 election, that model changed. Voters were, say, collecting money and going to vote an alternate political party until political parties saw that they were wasting their money. So if you recall the 2016 election, particularly in Edo, that moved on to Ondo election, it was, particularly in Edo, it was collect their money, go and vote your conscience. But gradually when they moved to Ondo, it was no longer collect your money. It was vote, we want to see before we buy. So right now it is see and buy. So the era of vote buying become an issue is how to put measure in place to avoid the sin, and that is part of my challenge. When, as of this time, you see this ballot paper we are seeing, in my opinion, we should cancel ballot paper. That's what they see. If you want to stop vote buying, stop the process of seeing. Reduce agent from seeing the ballot. If you do that, people will collect money and not vote the right candidate or the candidate they would like to vote for. People are coerced to vote because of the money. They know that 10,000 naira or 5,000 could meet a demand at that moment. So what they do is to say, okay, I will vote. Let me just eat for a day. God bless the other days. I mean, we have had a conversation in many of the states. You are asking a voter, why do you have to collect money? And the voter is telling you,
but why is it very difficult, to eliminate, vote buying or inducement by money? Why is it difficult?
There's a weaponization of poverty in Nigeria. Sincerely, if you go off the street, I'm not too sure how many calls you receive every day for folks, your community people see you on TV every day wearing suit, thinking that you are so big now, and there's call coming. Practically, when you live in Abuja, there's huge demand on everybody, including you and I. I'm not exempt ourselves, because we receive those calls. There are people who live on 5,000 naira a month, 5,000 naira a month that cannot fuel your car for within 3 hours or 2, depending on the kind of car you use. So that kind of individual who don't have 5,000 naira at hand for a month and get 10,000 naira a day, we go for 10,000. Let's not assume that let's not blame the voter, because poverty results in many things. People can argue, poverty cannot lead to crime, but let's look. You can do a empirical study. Poverty leads to crime.
Just before I let you go, I mean, of course, vote buying really is something that perhaps I don't know if we may be seeing an end to that soon. But what are some of you? I mean, from your perspective, because you've been as an advocacy group, you've been at the forefront in pushing for electoral reform. So, what are some of other pressing electoral reforms that Nigeria needs to address ahead of future elections? I mean, we'll still have Anambra and some other future elections coming.
If this electoral act gets passed before Anambra election, I don't know whether it will be used, because the Anambra election is in November.
Right.
Hopefully they pass it maybe 6 months ahead so that INEC is able to use it. First of all, INEC must stick to that regulation of the transmission of result to the Form EC8A. I mean, to the result viewing portal. That is critical. And that is something that undermine the electoral process of 2023. All other things that INEC have done better. I mean, INEC did a lot of fantastic work, including advocacy, information ahead of that election. But on the day of election, certain things went too bad, whether you like it or not, including commentaries like if you don't agree with the result, go to court. All of those commentaries were not good for the electoral system. Importantly, to stop vote buying, I am recommending a total overhaul that requires the elimination of the ballot papers. And again, if you eliminate ballot papers, you will save Nigeria a huge amount of money. I give you a metaphor, and I've said that again and again. I don't know who's listening to me now. I'll say it again. The total cost of procurement of our ballot papers is too much. In a country that is struggling and always borrowing, imagine that there are 100 million voters, registered voters to vote. INEC will print at least 120 million ballot papers. Look, check the last election in 2023. Less than 30 million people voted. Less than. It means that over 17 million ballot papers were burnt. And imagine that ballot paper cost us maybe one ballot for like 50 naira. Do the mathematics. 50 naira times 17 million ballot. Check how much that will do for a community or a state or a local government or so. That is on one side. All we need to do, INEC has already invested in a BVAS machine. That BVAS can do more than just capturing. It can be transformed by reason of apps to be a voting machine. We saw in Kaduna local government election at some point. Digitalize fully our electoral process and will reduce malfeasance, particularly this election resource mutilation and all of that we see at the collation point.
Well, I hope to get to that point someday. Thank you so much, Austin Aigbe, Regional Advocacy Officer and ECOWAS Liaison Lead for West Africa Democracy Solidarity Network. Thank you so much for coming on News Time.
Thank you.